grab your popcorn and snacks, find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Hey everybody, give me a second to start up TikTok here, and we will start rocking through this. Give me a minute, take the mirror off here. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome. Sorry I ran late today. I had a last minute client thing going on, and I was on the phone with a client. Paranormal, of course, talking with her about her situation. But here I am. Happy Sunday. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team, based out of Sacramento, California. We are 45 strong up and down the state, which means if you think you have a paranormal need, we can get to you. It may take us a day or two because California is a huge state, but we can get to you. We also have branches in Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, New York, and Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, New York. Yeah, I think we got that covered. Anyway, welcome. Today is reading day, which is Sunday. Normally, Sunday is Sunday reading day. We have, like when I have to read midweek, sometimes I'll call it reading day. But I think we're really close to the end of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I have a feeling. Maybe not. I could be wrong. But I think we're coming close to the end of it. So, depending on what happens today, next week we will be shifting. If we finish today, next week we're going to be shifting into spooky Christmas stories. Spooky holiday stories, okay? So just be aware of that, for the shift when it occurs. Welcome, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. I had a pretty good weekend. I rested this weekend. I do readings every night on TikTok at 7 p.m. Pacific, and the readings tend to drain me. So I get pretty tired where I'm sleeping most of the day. But the last 2 days I've done pretty good. Been cleaning my house. Been cleaning up Halloween so I can get into Christmas. I mean, I do Christmas like Disney. So my Christmases are very elaborate. So I had to get that going, and I'll be decorating tomorrow to get all that set up. Anyway, hope you enjoy this. I'm going to read for about an hour. I'm trying to get 1,000 likes today, or maybe more likes. Let's see what we can do with that. See how many likes you guys can get me in an hour over on TikTok. I'd really appreciate it. I do have a goal of 100 donuts. If you guys could help me out with my 100 donut goal, that would be great too. All the money I make goes towards my team. It does not go in my pocket. Okay? So it goes towards expenses for my paranormal team. So if you could find, hi, Embark Lady. So if you can find it in your heart to donate some donuts, that would be great. Besides my sweet tooth acting up. Okay, so Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where we left off, and I kind of left off in the middle of a chapter last week because we were running real late. And we left off in some letters that this gentleman, Frankenstein, had followed the Baron von Henry, or no, whoever it is, Baron von Frankenstein, had followed the monster. It's a lot different than the movie. Had followed the monster clear around the world to an ice pack, and he was so exhausted he ended up on this boat, on this ship, and the captain of this ship took a liking to him, and so he took notes. He told him his story, about creating the monster and all that stuff, and this guy took notes, and so that's where we're at. The gentleman wrote his sister back. Okay. Oh, we're having trouble moving. And the gentleman wrote his sister back. A little bit of a delay going on. I apologize. I don't think it's my internet. I think it's Restream. Anyway, the gentleman wrote his sister back, wrote his sister letters, and that's where we stopped with one of the letters. Looks like we're going to have some issues with the live on the main show, which really hates me. That really bugs me. I got internet for this, and it's doing weird things today. But we're at a peak time at 5 p.m. on a Sunday, so yeah. Anyway, so that's where we're at. So I kind of stopped in the middle of that whole section because we were going to bleed it into another hour. I usually like to stay on and read for an hour. Hello, everybody. Hello, TikTok. I usually like to read for an hour, and so that's what we're going to do today. It's 5:12 p.m. Pacific now. I will read till 6:12 p.m. Pacific because I have to prepare to go over to TikTok and do my other show. Wow, thank you. All right. Okay, guys, so here we go. So what I suggest for you guys over on TikTok, just listen, grab some hot cocoa, grab some popcorn, grab some stuff, and just sit back and listen, dim the lights, and we're going to be reading from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, okay? So here we go. Like I said, we're right in the middle of those letters, okay? So this is he having a conversation. This is the gentleman having a conversation with Frankenstein himself. Okay, so this is okay. Are you mad, my friend? Said he. Or whither does your senseless curiosity lead you? Would you also create for yourself and the world a demon enemy? Peace, peace. Learn my miseries and do not seek to increase your own. Frankenstein discovered that I made notes concerning his history. He asked to see them, and then he himself corrected and augmented them in many places, but principally in giving the life and spirit to the conversations he held with his enemy. Since you have preserved my narration, said he, I would not that a mutilated one should go down to posterity. Thus has a week passed away, while I have listened to the strangest tale that ever imagination formed. My thoughts and every feeling of my soul have been drunk up by the interest for my guest, which this tale, in his own elevated and gentle manners, have created. Real quick, this is copyright free, so you can get this book for yourself for free at the Gutenberg project online. So just to let you guys know this, let me open up the chat. Okay, all right. Let me open up the chat room. Okay, so here we go. See you guys on TikTok. Welcome. All right. Just to let you know, for TikTok too, this is copyright free, so so we can't get in trouble for reading this thing. Okay. All right. So let me have a quick swig here. I've been dehydrated all day. So here we go. Thus a week passed away, while I have listened to the strange tale that ever imagination formed. My thoughts and every feeling of my soul have been drunk up by the interest for my guest, which this tale in his own elevated and gentle manners have created. I wish to soothe him, yet can I counsel one so infinitely miserable, so destitute of every hope of consolation, to live? Oh no. The only joy that he can now know will be when he composes his shattered spirit to peace and death. Yet he enjoys one comfort, the offspring of solitude and delirium. He believes that when in dreams he holds converse with his friends and derives from that communion consolation for his miseries or excitements, to his vengeance, that they are not the creations of his fancy, but the beings themselves who visit him from the regions of a remote world. This faith gives the solemnity to his reveries that render them to me almost as imposing and interesting as truth. Our conversations are not always confined to his own history and misfortunes. On every point of general literature, he displays unbounded knowledge and a quick and piercing apprehension. His eloquence is forcible and touching, nor can I hear him when he relates a pathetic incident or endeavors to move the passions of pity or love without tears. What a glorious creature must he have been in the days of his prosperity, when he is thus noble and godlike in ruin. He seems to feel his own worth and the greatness of his fall. When younger, said he, I believed myself destined for some great enterprise. My feelings are profound, but I possessed a coolness of judgment that fitted me for illustrious achievements. This sentiment of the worth of my nature supported me when others would have been oppressed, for I deemed it criminal to throw away in useless grief those talents that might be useful to my fellow creatures. When I reflected on the work I had completed, no less a one, no less a one than the creation of a sensitive and rational animal, I could not rank myself with the herd of common projectors. But this thought, which supported me in the commencement of my career, now serves only to plunge me lower in the dust. All my speculations and hopes are as nothing, and like the archangel who aspired to omnipotence, I am chained in eternal hell. My imagination was vivid, yet my powers of analysis and application were intense. By the union of these qualities, I conceived the idea and executed the creation of a man. Even now, I cannot recollect without passion my reveries while the work was incomplete. I trod heaven in my thoughts, now exulting in my powers, now burning with the idea of their effects. From my infancy, I was imbued with high hopes and a lofty ambition. But how am I sunk? Oh, my friend, if you had known me as I once was, you would not recognize me in this state of degradation. Despondency rarely visited my heart. A high destiny seemed to bear me on until I fell, never, never again to rise. Must I then lose this admirable being? I have longed for a friend. I have sought one who would sympathize with me and love me. Behold, on these desert seas I have found such a one, but I fear I have gained him only to know his value and lose him. I would reconcile him to life, but he repulses the idea. I thank you, Walton, he said, for your kind intentions towards so miserable a wretch. But when you speak of new ties and fresh affections, think you that any can replace those who are gone? Can any man be to me as Clerval was, or any woman another Elizabeth? Even where the affections are not strongly moved by any superior excellence, the companions of our childhood always possess a certain power over our minds which hardly any later friend can obtain. They know our infantine dispositions, which, however they may be afterwards modified, are never eradicated, and they can judge of our actions with more certain conclusions as to the integrity of our motives. A sister or a brother can never, unless indeed such symptoms have been shown early, suspect the other of fraud or false dealing, when another friend, however strongly he may be attached, may, in spite of himself, be contemplated with suspicion. But I enjoyed friends, dear not only through habit and association, but from their own merits. And wherever I am, the soothing voice of my Elizabeth and the conversation of Clerval will be ever whispered in my ear. They are dead, but one feeling in such a solitude can persuade me to preserve my life. If I were engaged in any high undertaking or design fraught with extensive utility to my fellow creatures, then could I live to fulfill it? But such is not my destiny. I must pursue and destroy the being to whom I gave existence. Then my lot on earth will be fulfilled, and I may die. My beloved sister, September 2nd. I write to you encompassed by the peril and ignorant whether I am ever doomed to see again my dear England, and the dear friends that inhabit it. I am surrounded by mountains of ice which admit of no escape, and threaten every moment to crush my vessel. The brave fellows whom I have persuaded to be my companions look towards me for aid, but I have none to bestow. There is something terribly appalling in our situation, yet my courage and hopes do not desert me. Yet it is terrible to reflect that the lives of all these men are in danger through me. If we are lost, my mad schemes are the cause. And what, Margaret, will be the state of your mind? You will not hear of my destruction, and you will anxiously await our return. Years will pass, and you will have visitings of despair, and yet be tortured by hope. Oh, my beloved sister, the sickening failing of your heart felt expectations is, in prospect, more terrible to me than my own death. But you have a husband and lovely children. You may be happy. Heaven bless you and make you so. My unfortunate guest regards me with the tenderest compassion. He endeavors to fill me with hope, and talks as if life were a possession which he valued. He reminds me how often the same accidents have happened to other navigators who have attempted the sea. And in spite of myself, he fills me with cheerful auguries. Even the sailors feel the power of his eloquence when he speaks. They no longer despair. He rouses their energies, and while they hear his voice, they believe these vast mountains of ice are molehills, which will vanish before the resolutions of a man. These feelings are transitory. Each day of expectation delayed fills them with fear, and I almost dread a mutiny caused by this despair. September 5th. A scene has just passed of such uncommon interest that, although it is highly probable that these papers may never reach you, yet I cannot forbear recording it. We are still surrounded by mountains of ice, still in imminent danger of being crushed in their conflict. The cold is excessive, and many of my unfortunate comrades have already found a grave amidst the scene of desolation. Frankenstein has daily declined in health. A feverish fire still glimmers in his eyes, but he is exhausted, and when suddenly roused to any exertion, he speedily sinks again into apparent lifelessness. I mentioned in my last letter the fears I entertained of a mutiny. This morning, as I sat watching the long countenance of my friend, his eyes half closed and his limbs hanging listlessly, I was roused by half a dozen of the sailors, who demanded admission into the cabin. They entered, and their leader addressed me. He told me that he and his companions had been chosen by the other sailors to come in deputation to me to make me a requisition which, in justice, I could not refuse. We were immured in ice and should probably never escape, but they feared that if, as was possible, the ice should dissipate and a free passage be opened, I should be rash enough to continue my voyage, and lead them into fresh dangers, after they might happily have surmounted this. They insisted, therefore, that I should engage with the solemn promise that if the vessel should be freed, I would instantly direct my course southwards. This speech troubled me. I had not despaired, nor had I yet conceived the idea of returning if set free. Yet could I, in justice, or even in possibility, refuse this demand? I hesitated before I answered when Frankenstein, who had at first been silent, and indeed appeared hardly to have force enough to attend, now roused himself. His eyes sparkled, and his cheeks flushed with momentary vigor. Turning towards the men, he said, "What do you mean? What do you demand of your captain? Are you, then, so easily turned from your design? Do you not call this a glorious expedition? And therefore, was it glorious? Not because the way was as smooth and placid as the southern sea, but because it was full of dangers and terror, because at every new incident your fortitude was to be called forth, and your courage exhibited, because danger and death surrounded it, and these you were to brave and overcome. For this was it a glorious was it a glorious for this it an honorable undertaking. You were hereafter to be hailed as the benefactors of your species, your names adored as belonging to brave men who encountered death for honor and the benefit of mankind. And now, behold, with the first imagination of danger, or if you will, the first mighty and terrific trial of your courage, you shrink away and are content to be handed down as men who had not strength enough to endure cold and peril. And so, poor souls, they were chilly and returned to their warm firesides. Why, that requires this preparation. Ye need not have to come thus far and drag your captain to the shame of a defeat merely to prove yourselves cowards. Oh, be men, or be more than men. Be steady to your purposes, and firm as a rock. This ice is not made of such stuff as your hearts may be. It is mutable, and cannot withstand you if you say that it shall not. Do not return to your families with the stigma of disgrace marked on your brows. Return as heroes who have fought and conquered, and who know not what it is to turn their backs on the foe. He spoke this with a voice so modulated to the different feelings expressed in his speech, with an eye so full of lofty design and heroism, that can you wonder what these men removed? They looked at one another and were unable to reply. I spoke. I told them to retire and consider what had been said, that I would not lead them farther north if they strenuously desired the contrary, but that I hoped that, with reflection, their courage would return. They retired, and I turned towards my friend, but he was sunk in languor and almost deprived of life. How old this will terminate, I know not, but I had rather die than return shamefully. My purpose is unfulfilled. Yet I fear such will be my fate. The men, unsupported by ideas of glory and honor, can never willingly continue to endure their present hardships. September 7th. The die is cast. I have consented to return if we are not destroyed. Thus are my hopes blasted by cowardice and indecision. I come back ignorant and disappointed. It requires more philosophy than I possess to bear this injustice with patience. September 12th. It is past. I am returning to England. I have lost my hopes of utility and glory. I have lost my friend. But I will endeavor to detail these bitter circumstances to you, my dear sister. And while I am wafted toward England and toward you, I will not despond. September 9th. September 9th, the ice began to move, and roarings like thunder were heard at a distance as the island split and cracked in every direction. We were in the most imminent peril. But as we could only remain passive, my chief attention was occupied by my unfortunate guest, whose illness increased to such a degree that he was entirely confined to his bed. The ice cracked behind us and was driven with force towards the north. A breeze sprang from the west, and on the 11th the passage towards the south became perfectly free. When the sailors saw this, and that their return to their native country was apparently assured, a shout of tumultuous joy broke from them, loud and long continued. Frankenstein, who was dozing, awoke, and asked the cause of the tumult. They shout, I said, because they will soon return to England. Do you, then, really return? Alas, yes. I cannot withstand their demands. I cannot lead them unwillingly to danger, and I must return. Do so if you will, but I will not. You may give up your purpose, but mine is assigned to me by heaven, and I dare not. I am weak. But surely the spirits who assist my vengeance will endow me with sufficient strength. Saying this, he endeavored to spring from the bed, but the exertion was too great for him. He fell back and fainted. It was long before he was restored. I often thought that life was entirely extinct. At length he opened his eyes. He breathed with difficulty and was unable to speak. The surgeon gave him a composing draught and ordered us to leave him undisturbed. In the meantime, he told me that my friend had certainly not many hours to live. His sentence was pronounced, and I could only grieve and be patient. I sat by his bed, watching him. His eyes were closed, and I thought he slept. But presently he called to me in a feeble voice, and bidding me come near, and said, "Alas, the strength I relied on is gone. I feel that I shall soon die, and he, my enemy and persecutor, may still be in being. Think not, Walton, that in the last moments of my existence I feel that burning hatred and ardent desire of revenge I once expressed, but I feel myself justified in desiring the death of my adversary. During these last days I have been occupied in examining my past conduct, nor do I find it blamable. In a fit of enthusiastic madness, I created a rational creature and was bound towards him to assure, as far as was in my power, his happiness and well-being. This was my duty. Excuse me, my allergies. But there was another still paramount to that. My duties towards the beings of my own species had greater claims to my attention, because they included a greater proportion of happiness or misery. Urged by this view, I refused, and I did right in refusing, to create a companion for the first creature. He showed unparalleled anger and selfishness and evil. He destroyed my friends. He devoted to destruction, to destruction beings who possessed exquisite sensations, happiness, and wisdom. Nor do I know where this thirst for vengeance may end. Miserable himself, that he may render no other wretched, he thought to die. He ought to die. The task of his destruction was mine, but I failed. When actuated by selfish and vicious motives, I asked you to undertake my unfinished work, and I renew this request now, when I am only induced by reason and virtue. Yet I cannot ask you to renounce your country and friends to fulfill this task, and now that you are returning to England, you will have little chance of meeting with him. But the consideration of these points, and the well-balancing of what you may esteem your duties, I leave to you. My judgment and ideas are already disturbed by the near approach of death. I dare not ask you to do what I think right, for I may still be misled by passion. That he should live to be an instrument of mischief disturbs me. In other respects, this hour, when I momentarily expect my release, is the only happy one which I have enjoyed for several years. The forms of the beloved dead flit before me, and I hasten to their arms. Farewell, Walton. Seek happiness and tranquillity, and avoid ambition, even if it be only the apparently innocent one of distinguishing yourself in science and discoveries. Yet, why do I say this? I have myself been blasted in these hopes. Yet another may succeed. His voice became fainter as he spoke, and at length, exhausted by the effort, he sank into silence. About half an hour afterwards, he attempted again to speak, but was unable. He pressed my hand feebly, and his eyes closed forever, while the irradiation of a gentle smile passed away from his lips. Margaret, what comment can I make on the untimely extinction of this glorious spirit? What can I say that will enable you to understand the depth of my sorrow? All that I should express would be inadequate and feeble. My tears flow. My mind is overshadowed by a cloud of disappointment. But I journey towards England, and I may be there find consolation. I am interrupted. What do these sounds portend? It is midnight. The breeze blows fairly, and the watch on deck scarcely stir. Again, there is a sound, as if of a human voice, but hoarser. It comes from the cabin where the remains of Frankenstein still lies. I must arise and examine. Good night, my sister. Great God! What a scene has just taken place! I am yet dizzy with the remembrance of it. I hardly know whether I shall have the power to detail it. Yet the tale which I have recorded would be incomplete without this final and wonderful catastrophe. I entered the cabin, where lay the remains of my ill-fated and admirable friend. Over him hung a form which I cannot find words to describe, gigantic in stature, yet uncouth and distorted in its proportions. As he hung over the coffin, his face was concealed by long locks of ragged hair, but one vast hand was extended, in color and apparent texture like that of a mummy. When he heard the sound of my approach, he ceased to utter exclamations of grief and horror and sprung towards the window. Never did I behold a vision so horrible as his face, of such loathsome yet appalling hideousness. I shut my eyes involuntarily, and endeavored to recollect what were my duties with regard to this destroyer. I called on him to stay. He paused, looking on me with wonder, and again turning towards the lifeless form of his creator. He seemed to forget my presence, and every feature and every gesture seemed instigated by the wildest rage of some uncontrollable passion. "That is also my victim," he exclaimed. "In his murder my crimes are consummated. The miserable series of my being is wound to its close. Oh, Frankenstein, generous and self-devoted being, what does it avail that I now ask thee to pardon me? I, who irretrievably destroyed thee by destroying all that thou lovest. Alas, he is cold, he cannot answer me." His voice seemed suffocated, and my first impulses, which had suggested to me the duty of obeying the dying request of my friend and destroying his enemy, were now suspended by a mixture of curiosity and compassion. I approached this tremendous being. I dared not again raise my eyes to his face. There was something so scaring and unearthly in his ugliness. I attempted to speak, but the words dried away on my lips. The monster continued to utter wild, incoherent self-reproaches. At length, I gathered resolution to address him in a pause of the tempest of his passion. "Your repentance," I said, "is now superfluous. If you had listened to the voice of consciousness and heeded the stings of remorse before you had urged your diabolical vengeance to this extremity, Frankenstein would yet have lived." "And do you dream?" said the demon. "Do you think that I was then dead to agony and remorse? He continued, pointing to the corpse, he suffered not in the consummation of the deed. Oh, no. Not the 10,000th portion of anguish that was mine during the lingering detail of its execution. A frightful selfishness hurried me on, while my heart was poisoned with remorse. Think you that the groans of Clerval were music to my ears? My heart was fashioned to be susceptible of love and sympathy, and when wretched by misery, to vice and hatred. It did not endure the violence of the change without torture, such as you cannot even imagine. After the murder of Clerval, I returned to Switzerland, heartbroken and overcome. I pitied Frankenstein. My pity amounted to horror. I abhorred myself. But when I discovered that he, the author and whence of my existence, of its unspeakable tortures, dared to hope for happiness, that while he accumulated wretchedness and despair upon me, he sought his own enjoyment in feelings and passions from the indulgence of which I was forever barred, then impotent envy and bitter indignation filled me with an insatiable thirst for vengeance. I recollected my threat and resolved that it should be accomplished. I knew that I was preparing for myself a deadly torture, but I was the slave, not the master, of an impulse which I detested yet could not disobey. Yet when she died, nay, then I was not miserable. I had cast off all feeling, subdued all anguish, to riot in the excess of my despair. Evil thenceforth became my good. Urged thus far, I had no choice but to adapt my nature to an element which I had willingly chosen. The completion of my plans became insatiable passion, and now it is ended. There is my last victory, and my last victim. I was at first touched by the expressions of his misery, yet, when I called to mind what, what Frankenstein had said of his powers of eloquence and persuasion, and when I again cast my eyes on the lifeless form of my friend, indignation was rekindled within me. "Wretch," I said, "it is well that you come here to whine over the desolation that you have made. You throw a torch into a pile of buildings, and when they are consumed, you sit among the ruins and lament the fall. Hypocritical friend! If he whom you mourn still lived, still would he be the object, again, would he become the prey of your accused vengeance? It is not pity that you feel. You lament only because the victim of your malignity is withdrawn from your power. Oh, it is not thus, interrupted the being. Yet such must be the impression conveyed to you by what appears to be the purport of my actions. Yet I seek not a fellow feeling in my misery. No sympathy may I ever find. When I first sought it, it was the love of virtue, the feelings of happiness, and the affection with which my whole being overflowed, that I wished to be participated. But now that the virtue has become to me a shadow, and that happiness and affection are turned into bitter and loathing despair, and what should I seek for sympathy? I am content to suffer alone, while my suffering shall endure. When I die, I am well satisfied that abhorrence and opportunity should load my memory. Once my fancy was soothed with dreams of virtue, of fame, and of enjoyment. Once I falsely hoped to meet with beings who, pardoning my outward form, would love me for the excellent qualities which I was capable of unfolding. I was nourished with high thoughts of honor and devotion, but now crime has degraded me beneath the meanest animal. No guilt, no mischief, no malignity, no misery can be found comparable to mine. When I run over the frightful catalogue of my sins, I cannot believe that I am the same creature whose thoughts were once filled with sublime and transcendent visions of the beauty and the majesty of goodness. But it is even so. The fallen angel becomes a malignant devil. Yet, even that enemy of God and man had friends and associates in his desolation. I'm alone. You, who call Frankenstein your friend, seem to have a knowledge of my crimes and his misfortunes. But in the detail which he gave you of them, he could not sum up the hours and months of misery which I endured wasting in impotent passions. For while I destroyed his hopes, I did not satisfy my own desires. They were forever ardent and craving. Still I desired love and fellowship. And I was still spurned. Was there no injustice in this? Am I to be thought the only criminal when all humankind has sinned against me? Why do you not hate Felix, who drove his friend from his door who drove his friend from his door? Why do you not extricate the rustic who sought to destroy the Savior of his child? Nay, these are virtuous and immaculate beings. I, the miserable and the abandoned, am an abortion, to be spurned at, and kicked, and trampled on. Even now, my blood boils at the recollection of this injustice. But it is true that I'm a wretch. I have murdered the lovely and the helpless. I have strangled the innocent as they slept, and grasped to death's throat, who never injured me or any other living thing. I have devoted my Creator to the select specimen of old that is worthy of love and admiration among men, to misery. I have pursued him even to that irremediable ruin. There he lies, white and cold in death. You hate me, but your abhorrence cannot equal that with which I regard myself. I look on the hands which executed the deed. I think on the heart in which the imagination of it was conceived, and long for the moment when these hands will meet my eyes, when that imagination will haunt my thoughts no more. Fear not that I shall be the instrument of future mischief. My work is nearly complete. Neither yours nor any man's death is needed to consummate the series of my being and accomplish that which must be done, but it requires my own. Do not think that I shall be slow to perform this sacrifice. I shall quit your vessel on the ice raft which brought me thither, and shall seek the most northern extremity of the globe. I shall collect my funeral pile and consume the ashes of this miserable frame. Yeah, that its remains may afford no light to any curious and unhallowed wretch who would create such another as I have been. I shall die. I shall no longer feel the agonies which now consume me, or be the prey of feelings unsatisfied, yet unquenched. He is dead who called me into being. And when I shall be no more, the very remembrance of us both will speedily vanish. I shall no longer see the sun or stars, or feel the winds play on my cheeks. Light, feeling, and sense will pass away. And in this condition must I find happiness. some years ago, when the images with which this world affords first opened up upon me, when I felt the cheering warmth of the summer, and heard the rustling of the leaves, and the warbling of the birds, and these were all to me. I should I should have wept to die. Now it is my only consolation. Polluted by crimes, and torn by the bitterest remorse, where can I find rest but in death? Farewell, I leave you, and in you the last of humankind whom these eyes will ever behold. Farewell, Frankenstein. If thou wert yet alive, and yet cherished a desire of revenge against me, it would be better satiated in my life than my destruction. But it was not so. Thou didst seek my extinction, that I might not cause greater wretchedness. And if yet, in some mode unknown to me, thou hadst not ceased to think and feel, thou wouldst not desire against me a vengeance greater than that which I feel. Blasted as thou wert, my agony was still superior to thine, for the bitter sting of remorse will not cease to rankle in my wounds until death shall close them forever. But soon, he cried with sad and solemn enthusiasm, I shall die, and what I now feel be no longer felt. Soon these burning miseries will be extinct. I shall ascend my funeral pile triumphantly and exult in the agony of the torturing flames. The light of that conflagration will fade away. My ashes will be swept into the sea by the winds. My spirit will sleep in peace, or if it thinks, it will not surely think thus. Farewell. He sprang from the cabin window as he said this, upon the ice raft which lay close to the vessel. He was soon borne away by the waves and lost in darkness and distance. And that is it. That is the end of Frankenstein. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a lot different. It was a lot different than the movies. There was never a Bride of Frankenstein or anything like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of difference in here in the way the monster ended, right? Right just now, where he jumps from the boat, he takes the raft and he does his own funeral. He analyzed himself. So, yeah, it was different. And yeah, that's all I can say. Is Dracula ended a lot differently too, because we read Dracula just before this book. All right, so that means next week is the 22nd. We're going to be shifting into the holidays. You're going to see the backdrop change back here, and I will start reading spooky Christmas and holiday stories. We're going to be talking about like scary legends from Norway and things like that. Things that you've heard of in Germany and things like that. But we're also going to be talking about some spooky. Hang on a second. Okay. Oh, there's 4 of you actually listening. I'm glad. You never know on TikTok. I only have 1 over here. I'm still working on getting Facebook connected to this situation over with Restream. I think I know what's going on because Restream has me connected via Google. My California Haunts account over on Google, and my Facebook isn't connected to me that way. So I think that's the issue, and I'm going to figure out how I'm going to get around that over there, so I can broadcast to TikTok, I can broadcast to Facebook, I can broadcast to YouTube, I can broadcast to some other places. So I'm still working on that stuff, but it's taken a while. Just like the end credits, I got those finally. I can get those cut down to where I need to be and get those updated. So that's gonna be rain too. Starting next weekend, also, I'm gonna get a hold of Mitzi Zarado, who requested that she come on to do a show on Saturday the 23rd. I usually don't do Saturday shows, but to get launched for the radio show and get the radio show going again, we're going to be doing that. Anna Maria Manalo, author, is going to be with us. Author Mitzi Zarado is going to be with us this coming week. So we've got Nancy, we've got 2 authors coming on, and of course, Sunday Reading Day. So that's going to get the regular California Haunts radio show launched over on YouTube. The issue with that, with you guys on TikTok, thank you for the like. Thank you, Royalty. The only issue with that is that I do not have a key for TikTok yet, and I have to get through my little college education thing with my representation, and I'm almost there. Once I do that, I can request a key. Once I get the key, I'll be able to broadcast my regular show live on TikTok as well, just like I'm doing right now, and you'll be able to hear my guests and all that stuff. But right now, if I do have a guest, there's no way I can broadcast on TikTok because you won't hear the guest. There's no way to do that stuff. So that's why I'm only doing the Sunday radio shows over here. where I don't have a guest. So hopefully within the next month or so, that's going to get taken care of. But it's an interesting ride, putting all this stuff together. I had to switch to Restream. StreamYard had raised their prices 100%. Not happening. So I came over to Restream and still trying to get the bugs out. Just like for you people that listen to our RSS feed in your cars and stuff, I can't even do anything until the next day to upload the RSS feed because the format for the videos to download off of here is something that's like old and nobody uses it anymore. So I have to wait till YouTube puts it through processing and then download it from YouTube and then pull the audio off. So you know, there's just different little complicated things going on at this point. So yeah, so I'm just trying to get the bugs out, waiting to get the bugs out. But I thank everybody today. We're ending early, which is cool, very cool, because I can go grab a sandwich before I do my show. But I will be back at 7 p.m. Pacific on TikTok, and if you guys over here and YouTube want to join, I will be doing free psychic readings, tarot card readings, past, present, future, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific on TikTok. So come on over. It's California Haunts on TikTok. Not that hard to find. And beware because there is somebody that is trying to jump on my bandwagon, and she spells it California Haunts. So beware of that site. That is not me. That's not me. I am California Haunts. I am California Haunts 2. The backup site is California Haunt. California that lower sign thing Haunts. .2. Okay, that's my other site. All right, so it's California Haunts. Thank you for the team thing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Royalty. Thank you. So yeah. So that's how you find me. It's California Haunts. Just California Haunts. HAUNTS. All right, that's how you'll find me over on TikTok. Do not go for the other side. If you see the other side, it's California Haunts. Okay, there's no R in it. So just be careful where you go. And I'm working on with TikTok trying to get her kicked off. So anyway, I will see you guys at 7 p.m. Pacific tonight. And can't wait. Can't wait to get online and do some readings for you guys and you guys over here on YouTube as well. All right, TikTok, I will see you later. Have a great one. I'll see you in about an hour. Bye. Okay, over here. TikTok's gone. We can say what we want now. No, I'm kidding. I've been doing really well on TikTok. A lot of updates for you guys. I'm gaining followers left and right. I'm really enjoying it. The California Haunts meetup, I did send an email out to people, and I'm trying to save the meetup if I can. That was purchased by the same company as StreamYard. And so my meetup fees went up 100%, and I'm not going to pay that. It's fun. It went from $23.99 a month to $45.99 a month, and it's just not worth it for me to do it. So I was hoping that people over at Meetup would pay maybe a $2 subscription fee over there, and we can afford it. But if it doesn't happen in a week and a half, I'm going to close the Meetup down. Now, don't fret for Meetup members, because I know there's a couple of you that come to watch the show for Meetup. I will have a site on Facebook for California Haunts Ghostly Events, and I'm going to keep everything going on my Patreon and here as well. So the announcements for the shows, just keep an eye out. I'm going to start booking the shows a week in advance like I used to. So just double check, the shows over on YouTube, and you'll have all that access for those shows. Okay, so you'll know they're coming. Okay, Michelle, I'm talking to you. You're one of them. And so yeah, so I'll be active over here. So things are going to do. We're going to start really putting together our paranormal questions of the day, so you guys will get to answer those and have some fun with those. And so yeah, I'm just trying to get my pacing. I'm doing TikTok every night from 7 p.m. Pacific to 10 p.m. Pacific for the most part. Sometimes I go longer, depends on the night. And I'm just trying to get my pacing between this, that, and then being able to upload these things to the RSS feed. The next day, get these things scheduled, be able to send letters out to get people on the show and things like that. So hopefully if I can get Mitzi and I can get Anna Maria going and Nancy and everybody, that'll be a 4-day run. That'll give me enough time to give me some cushion for guests. All right. As you can see, the intro, I have to cut the intro back a little bit because it only runs 46 seconds on here. So I'm going to have to do, probably put together another intro, and my ending with my credits, I'm going to have to do some cut back on that as well. But I mean, there's just adjusting to be over here, and we're getting there. I just wish we were on Facebook, broadcasting, because I have a big following over there, and it's just kind of a bummer right now at this point. But okay, anyway, I want to leave you guys. Like I said, I'm going to go take my break. It's almost 6 o'clock anyway, so we almost went the full hour. I almost did that. Again, Nancy will be back. If there's anything going on during the week, I'll come on over here and get you guys checked in on it. Nancy Matz will be back next week at her usual time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Saturday will be author Missy Zerato. And Anna Maria Manolo will be coming on. I'm going to try and see what day she can come on, and we get this show finally going with her. And, of course, reading, as this is done, we will be shifting to Christmas next week. I will not shift the backdrop until probably the week after, but we will start the spooky Christmas stuff next week, okay? All right, just to let you guys know, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And, again, come on over to TikTok in an hour, do some free readings, past, present, future. I'll see you there, okay? All right, here we go, and we're going to end right now. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to